Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette
and friends.
From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my.
Oh no! The Bachelorette and friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Bachelorette and Friends. I'm Carla Anita Matiazzo, and to my left is the gorgeous Lainey Jameson. Hello, Lainey. How are you?
Hi, gorgeous. I'm well, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good.
Pretty good. Today's guest is actually a reoccurring guest. We chatted with him a while ago, as you know, listening, all the people following the podcast. He had so much more to share with us, so we're doing a take two on a completely different tangent. Hello, Callan Fleming. Welcome again to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
As he rubs his hands.
Hello, everyone.
Like an evil villain. Yes, excellent.
With a very cheeky smile.
So, when we finished last time, we realised that we had so much more to cover. So, something that I'm very interested in to hear from you is the concept of female energy and how it plays in society, in yoga in particular. Let's start with the female energy, please, Callan, and male energy. Let's go from there.
Interesting. Yeah, female and male energy. So we actually, the true terms that we always try and use is feminine and masculine, because female and male, it denotes gender and types and all this kind of stuff. Whereas every single person has, hopefully, if you're like doing really well and you're doing the best, you're like Gandhi or something, you've got balanced masculine and feminine energy. So what this means is your masculine energy is your driving energy, your power energy, maybe is how people describe it, and then your feminine energy is your caring and your kind of more softer energy. That's not to say that they don't both have positives and negatives. The concept of toxic masculinity comes out of those kinds of discussions, and there's also toxic femininity as well.
Yes.
But the core concepts are that you have these two ideals of balanced energy going on inside of your own self.
Nice.
So why is it so important for people to have a basic understanding of the fact that we are actually made up of two essentially polar opposites within both female and male? We both have feminine energy and masculine energy. Why is this so important for people to start to get their minds around, Callan?
Basically, it for me, it's about reducing the stigma around masculine and feminine discussions, and it's about, at least again, this is for me, it's about really clarifying your own relationship to self. Because if you can know and be like, cool, I am reacting with masculine energy, which is like fixing energy. So if anyone's ever tried to help you with a problem, that's masculine energy. So that's like, I want to fix you. I'm like, you're like a broken baby bird and I want to fix you. That's full masculine mode. And if you're just like, I just want to listen to all of your problems and I just want to be here for you and I just want to listen, that's more feminine energy. So there's a very good thing that can come out of this, which is when you are someone like me who has existed very strongly in masculine energy for a long time and has always been in fix mode. So someone comes to me with a problem and I go, how do we fix that? You know,
Mr.
You're
Fix.
telling me a problem, I can fix it. And so what that does is that can shut down a lot of discussion. It can make it mean that people don't feel heard. And so you end up in this kind of loop of, you know, I just wanted to tell you something. And then I was like, but you were telling me a problem and I want to fix it. And then, you know, you have this kind of exchange that ends up in a very negative end point, because you end up fighting about the fact that you're not giving each other what you need.
Absolutely.
In that space. And so that kind of comes into the conversation around masculine and feminine energy. And then it's kind of also part of, you know, love language and, you know, all this kind of stuff. It was a book written in the 70s, I think, from memory, called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yes.
It's incredibly dated. It hasn't aged very well, but there were some core concepts in there that have kind of grown up and out of other kind of masculine feminine movements, or yoga or tantra, or even the 5 love languages is kind of all built on that stuff. There's some of the core concepts in that book.
So what got you interested in these concepts at all, Callan? Like, what made you go, I need to address my fix-it attitude. How do I become more balanced? How did this all come about?
I think I was very lucky. I think I was very lucky in the sense that I went to university with 20 women.
Yes.
And that can give you a unique perspective, which, you know, you don't really get, I think, in a lot of other mediums. Because, you know, doing a dance degree, it's very intense. And there were like 3 guys and 20 women, and it's like, you know, it's full on.
And did you notice the difference, Callan, between yourself and the other 2 guys? Were there different, how do I word this effectively? Did all 3 of you go on the same path, in that the other 2 were also inquisitive about the feminine and masculine energy, or was that just you being a more evolved human?
Definitely not more evolved. No. But no, I don't think that they would have gone on and done this kind of investigation. For me, like, that was just the starting point, right? So that's the introduction of being like around a lot of feminine energy, being around a lot of core concepts around this, like listening and holding space and all this kind of stuff. But it was after that. So it's like I had a series of relationships that all basically taught me quite different things, but kind of led me on the path to this. So I had a partner who gave me a book by Alan Bottain, the philosopher, called How to Think More About Sex. So that was my first introduction to reading philosophy around sexual relationships and healthy sexual relationships. And then I had a friend of mine who lent me the book Women Are From Mars, Men Are From Venus, and she was, you know, much more in the yoga community at that time. She was like, hey, here's this thing, I think you should read it. It would be really good for you. You know, because we were talking about just how people are in relationships. This is before I'd even done any readings or kind of done any path. But yeah, we were just talking about how people act in relationships and how that's not fulfilling. And then that was kind of the path. And then they were like, cool. And then I was set off on this path. And now I talk about it all the time.
It's my life experience. When I have suggested books for my ex-partners to read, to expand their worldview and their mind, it was basically a fuck off. No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. So the fact that you were open, even 1, to fucking read the shit, and 2, to then
actually learn from it. Yeah. Take it on board.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have always come with the places like if someone wants to share something with you, then like, of course you would want to do that. Like if you want to share that with me, then I would love to be on board and share that with you.
Yeah, but that's a unique and a beautiful thing, Callan.
Yes.
You know what? I'll take it. I love compliments. Let it rain.
Let it rain, baby. I just think it's really interesting that you were so open and then did your own deep dive, especially in regards to the identity that I think men and women are expected to fall into, especially in Australia. We seem to have a very females do this, men do this kind of overarching thing about our culture. So the fact that you were like, no, I'm actually going to do some more self-discovery through these different lenses, I think is fucking excellent. So well done.
Well, the hilarious thing is, despite the fact that I know it all, it still happens. So it's like, it's not to say that once you know you're fixed and you're done, and you're like, great, I know this stuff and I'm finished. That's unfortunately not how it works. Is what happens is you go, oh wow, cool, I know this stuff. Can I swear?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. And so you start and then you go, fuck. And then every time you do it, you kind of catch yourself and you're just like, and then that just becomes the loop of learning, which is, like in my previous relationship that just ended, I was absolutely in my masculine, Mr. Fix It. There's a problem, I have to solve it. You know, like it, because you're also coming with all the baggage of all of the relationships that you've had before. So you have the learning that you're doing at the same time as an individual, and then you have to take that and transpose it into you in a relationship. And those are two actually very different selves. And this is a whole other conversation. But yeah, essentially you're getting your individual self, which is doing lots of learning and growth and all this kind of stuff. And then you have to go like, cool, I need to bring that with me as we go into this space that I've been in before in a lot of toxic ways in previous relationships, and bring that into this new space. And that is really, really difficult.
Yeah, I think the key point there, Callan, that you've just mentioned is that you catch yourself.
And you're aware.
You didn't have that information behind you and you didn't have that intellectual understanding of what it actually is that's going on when you are acting like X, Y, Z, you wouldn't be able to catch yourself and get, hang on, this is not what I'm trying to be. So the fact that you catch yourself is so fucking important.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is. And that's the what they call the work. The work is doing that. And that is like a really difficult thing. But then getting into that is where that concept that I really like at the moment is this thing called green flags. So we talked about what's the catch last week. So then you go, well, what's the treasure? Is another way to put it. So like, what are the green flags that you're looking out for? Like I looked it up briefly before we started because I wanted to just refresh myself. So this concept of relationship green flags, of like people who take self-responsibility, have boundaries, like communicate openly, have their own hobbies, are self-sufficient.
Excellent.
Things like
Can
this.
you send me a link?
Yes, me too, please.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So geared to find the red flag, which look is very important. Like we do need to say, oh, this doesn't sit quite right for me. I can't intellectually articulate why, but I have to go with my gut. But it is so important to see the green flags as well and weigh out if the green flags are the heaviest in the weight or whatever.
Percentage?
Yeah.
4% green flags, 27% blue flags.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. Now I'm just joking.
But keep going.
I can't remember my primary colours. It's too long ago.
Keep on packing what you were saying. I interrupted.
No. We're having a conversation. It's not a problem. I like this conversation of green flags, and I like the concept of this like red flag, green flag kind of concept, where you are going like, okay, well, what are my boundaries? What are my catches, as we were talking about last time? And then you're going like, well, cool. Well, what are my necessaries? Like, what do I want out of someone? It's like, cool. Well, I want them to be able to talk to me about this cool stuff, or I want them to be able to to be self-sufficient, have their own hobbies that I'm not necessarily involved in, but know about and can talk to them about, so that you are these self-sufficient, self-developing people. So there's some really cool things there as well that are kind of, again, grown out of this culture of discussing about masculine, feminine, healthy relationships, good interactions between people, and how you develop those. A friend of mine, one Erin Fowler, and her sister Tess Fowler are incredible, and have been incredible for me because they're some of my best friends. And so we talk about this all the time.
We need to get these chickies on.
Yeah.
They are actually real deep knowledge, excellent human beings when it comes to these concepts. I have an understanding of them. I like it. And I have kind of a broad philosophical, yes, I get it.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting to hear it through the male lens and then the female lens, and just learn about those differences in themselves.
Yeah. But that's like something that I've been really fortunate for, is to have these people in my life who are also very interested in these things and bring them up, and we talk about them, regularly.
Fantastic.
Find people you can talk to about it is kind of what I'm saying.
Yes, brilliant. So then you touched on this a bit earlier. How does the feminine and masculine energies play into yoga? Like, some people might go, oh, duh, Carla, that's a pretty obvious fucking answer. But for those who don't do yoga,
that's good.
Can we delve into that a little bit? Because, the yin and yang is often brought up in yoga, and can you give us an explanation of how the yin and yang correlates with the masculine and feminine energies, please?
Yeah, I mean, at a most fundamental level, and the way that they begin describing it is that yin is the feminine energy. So that's the giving, relaxing, receiving kind of thing. And then the yang is the masculine energy, or fire energy, also called rajas energy, which is your pushing, fire-driven energy. So if you've ever done a style like Ashtanga, then that's a much more masculine-focused practice. It's all about using the body. It's all about being in flow. It's all about, going and going and going. Something like Hatha or Yin styles of yoga are much more feminine focused. So they're much more about sitting and slowness and gentleness.
And do you know what I loved about the way that you just described both of those is that you did not use passive for yin, because I have heard so many people before use the word passive when describing the yin part of yoga. So I think that is really important that you didn't use that.
Yeah, nothing passive about yin. Like relaxation maybe, but it's giving maybe, but not not passive. No. if you're passive in yin, well, if I'm passive in yin, I fall asleep, so I can't do that. It's so relaxing. Like, this is brilliant. Just out like a light. 3 minutes into class, just
So when you have more of an understanding of the masculine feminine energies within yoga, do you think that helps you move through your practice in a more effective, conscious way, Callan?
It gives you more understanding of what your goals are. Actually, I think it can help you with your practice. I mean, in a lot of ways, it can just help you in your life, but in your practice specifically, it can really help you kind of unlock what you're up to. Because if you're going like, well, I'm in my masculine energy today, so therefore I'm in my driven energy, which means I'm in my goal-oriented center. Cool. Well, all right, let's go. And you can kind of allow it. You can have it, and you can, take ownership, quote unquote, for that feeling. And once you know what you're doing, and then when you're in, you can be like, well, cool, this is an allowance, this is an acceptance, this is a giving. Boom. All right, well, that I can do that, and I can put that hat on when I'm in my yin class. And that can be really useful because people can come in having done Ashtanga their whole lives, walk into a yin class and be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
What the fuck do you mean I have to just allow today? And that can be really challenging for people. So once you understand that you've kind of got these energies inside yourself as well that you can step into, it actually can help quite a lot in just allowing your practice to function. I think, excellent. I don't know, did that answer the question?
Makes a lot of sense.
I'm enjoying you unpacking everything for us. It's nice.
I know.
A little bit of a loop.
No, it's great. Quite a number of years ago, I was fortunate enough to have quite a deal of healing work with a fantastic lady. I can't remember her full name. Her name was Linda, and she was the person that actually first introduced me to this concept of female and male energy. And in terms of healing and unlocking the space that I'd been operating from for quite some time in a very stressful, not very healthy relationship and situation. And I'm curious to know if this has helped, how it's helped you, Callan, with your recent breakup, if being more aware of these different energies, if you're finding that it's helpful, and how so, and if you sort of are finding one kind of energy is moving or underpinning your healing and moving forwards more than the other.
Yes. Okay. Let me just, okay, interesting.
Sorry, I'm so interested in this topic.
Yeah. No, brilliant.
It's a long question.
Just trying to get my thoughts in order a little bit. How's it affected me? For me, I step into my masculine when I'm dealing with challenge. So if I'm feeling challenged by something, so at a breakup is challenging and grieving and all of that kind of stuff, as we've talked about. So stepping into the masculine is really what I do. So I'm like, well, cool. Let's get a task list going. Let's build a master list. Let's rebuild my goals. Let's go. Let's do stuff. Let's go out, blah, blah, blah. What I've been trying to do this time is actually allow, and this is where the conversations are kind of working out, is just allow myself to be sad. And that is, I think, the balance that I'm still striving for. And I don't know that I'll ever actually complete that goal. It's always the journey. But for me, it's about now being like, well, I am grieving and I am just going to be sad today. And so I'll sit outside and I'll read my book instead of working on my task list, because that's what fulfills me.
Yeah. The fix-it hat is off.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Callan.
Yeah, being like, well, it's not quite off. I'm still reading books like Stranger, like How to Spot People Who Lie, things like that. So I'm still reading those types of books or engaging in those in philosophical stuff, because that is fulfilling to me. I'm doing that and just reading and allowing and drinking cups of tea in the sun, instead of being like, let's go do stuff, and that doing stuff will help fill the void that grief has made.
But it ends up still being there at the end.
Yeah,
it's always still there, and time helps that. The most interesting thing is that I know it and I still fall back on it, and the catching of it. So that is, for me, where I'm at in kind of the most interesting part of my journey. So at this moment is that I've done the work. I know the concepts. I don't know them perfectly. I'm still working on that and learning about them. But is that now actually implementing these ideas in my life and making sure that I'm doing what I have learned about and talk about. And that's the hardest thing, because you've got, for me, 30 years of, learning and patterns and pathways that you've developed. And so you're going like, well, I have these carriageways of thought process and of coping mechanisms that I've developed over 30 years. And how do I kind of not circumvent them, but interrupt them? And I go, hey, awesome, you're on the carriage to Fix-It Land. Why don't we go over here and have a cup of tea instead?
Oh, that's so great. I love it.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at, and I hope that answers the question.
Fantastic. Perfectly.
From what I understand about you, Callan,
He looks worried.
What was that?
He looks worried.
Is that it sounds like you are going to have an inquisitive mind until you die. That's what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Do you know why that makes me super happy? Is because you 99.9% won't get Alzheimer's because your brain will always be working. And the only reason I'm thinking about that is because I've got a few Alzheimer's family members, like grandparents.
Right.
And I think it's so important to have the mind constantly working in one way or another, just for a longevity point of view as well. And just you absorb the world in a different way if you are willing to be open to discoveries and different things about yourself. If you are, this is who I am, I'm not going to change, I only know this about myself, I know that I've had certain life experiences that are going to make me think this, then there's no room for discovery and the joyful surprises that come from that. So I think the fact that you are continuously, actively looking for that evolution through the philosophical stuff that you are reading is so beautiful. I think it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, and look, I have to say I'm incredibly fortunate, and also, to have built around me a group of people that are doing the same thing or are interested in the same thing. So we share things to each other all the time, and that is a really key. Yeah, is a really key thing for me. Is that we actually have built around ourselves other people who share this interest and share, books with each other and things like that. So, I have built that around me of these people that share stuff with each other. And that is really key. And if you don't have that, then you can find communities that can help you do that. So people like Power Living have a really great program of learning and philosophical discussion sharing and things like that.
Yeah, they do.
You find the people to do it. So if you don't have those in your circle at the moment, you can go out and you can seek them. I'm fortunate to have built a group of people who have quite diverse interests, and for me at least, like talking about this lifelong learning thing, is when someone recommends a book to you or recommends a film to you that is kind of off your beaten path, checking it out is a great way to A, connect with them because they're sharing with you something that they love, and B, you're going to learn something new because it's not something that you're normally into. And so there are two things that I can recommend. If you want to start down this path, or you're not sure what's going on, then just start watching the films that people recommend you, reading the books that people talk about that they're really loving, and that is, you're already on the path at that point.
Beautiful. That's so
true. I was given this from my parents. I'm very fortunate that they were lifelong learners. My dad decided to do a PhD when he was like 40, and he didn't finish it until he was 50 odd.
Brilliant.
Power to him.
But this is it. So it's like and my mum was continually learning and growing through her education career. And so I watched as, a young person, the adults around me continue to learn and continue to develop themselves across their whole lives. And so I don't think that ever stops. And I think that was a really good gift that I was given from them.
Absolutely. Great role models. Yeah. And I think that
and again, really lucky.
It ties in with your life experiences. I read a really fascinating book. Unfortunately, at this hour of the day, I can't quite recall the title, but it was all about the life traps that we can encounter, especially, I guess, from those formative years through to our adult years, and how we may carry those patterns forward. And if we're lucky enough and blessed enough to have had wonderful role models in our parents, then I think we're in a very good position to, create good patterns, be looking for knowledge and evolving, and, being the best people that we can be. It's really fascinating just how it all ties together.
Yeah,
something I would love for us, I don't know how possible this is, to actually do a list of the books that we are influenced by. I don't know if you could ever find that, and then you could put it as a link in the podcast. I think that would be awesome.
That's a fantastic idea.
Good idea, motherfucker. That's great.
We might have a take 3 with Callan. Joy.
That's excellent. I really like that idea.
Can have our own book club. I've never been in a book club.
Find one. There's heaps of go on Pinterest. There's heaps of lists online and all that kind of stuff.
Remind me of that, Callan. If you could remind me of that book suggestion, I think that would be very helpful for our listeners.
Yes.
Okay, now let's delve into Tantra.
Educate us, Callan.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
I am not in a position to really say much with authority. But yeah, let's do it.
So my first statement is, before I get into the questions, my only understanding of Tantra, I think, is from an episode of Sex and the City.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I'm pretty sure that is it.
That was
all I fucking got. So, and I've always been like, oh fuck, I'd love to have that experience, but I've never been with sexual partners that I think would be open to that. Most of my sexual partners, unfortunately, couldn't last more than 5 minutes. So Tantra is probably definitely off the motherfucking table. So I'm interested. Give us what you can. Thank you.
First up, my heart goes out to you.
I remember that episode with absolute pristine. I saw it too. What the fuck?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. 5-minute partners. Savage. So, yes, queen.
Dude. Yeah.
Okay. Tantra is not what it says on the box.
Interesting. Yep.
Tantra is not inherently sexual. At least in my understanding, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the most way people know, the most famous way people know it is through things like Sex and the City, or through celebrities like Sting, who's a practitioner of Tantra.
Oh, easy.
Did not know
that. The key thing to note is it's not the Kama Sutra. it's not sexological. It's not sexology. It is about healthy dynamics. It is about healthy energy. It is about this concept called shadow work, which is looking at yourself and seeing your public self, your confident self, and then looking back and you have this shadow self, and that's the person who sabotages you or doesn't, has a lot of your negative connotations, is this shadow self. And so Tantra works a lot in that realm, on the working with your shadow self, unlocking your emotional self, and really is like the most strongly worded about these concepts of masculine and feminine, and a lot of the language and a lot of the growth and a lot of the learnings that you'll do in Tantra are rooted in that language. And so, yeah, the masculine and feminine is really strong in Tantra, not in like a delineated, this is what masculine has to be, this is what feminine has to be, but more about, the taking these core concepts of masculine and feminine and using those as the base plates for all of the conversations about how your personality develops and how you grow as a person. So that is what Tantra is about. Tantra is not sitting and breathing. Yes, it has elements of like, energy through the body, and there are elements of like sitting with another person and doing that and feeling energy, and there are ways that you develop that, and that kind of, it does step into a sexual realm, or it can step into a sexual realm, but it's not necessarily about that. It's more about it's about the flow of energy. It's about the masculine and feminine.
Callan. That's how it's sold, that Tantra is only a sexual act or a sexual technique to reach a more intense and longer orgasm, is what I processed it as.
Would you say that it's more about soul connection and exchanging that energy on an equal platform with another person, Callan?
Yes.
Spirituality.
Yeah. If you get into concepts of soul, that's like, yes. Yeah. It's more about. I think it's more about a self practice, and the shared practice version is about connecting energetically with someone. More than anything else. I completely understand like where the that core concept of Tantra is like, I'm here to get better orgasms. And if that gets you into Tantra, brilliant, amazing, because you'll end up doing the other work as well. So if you just want to get better orgasms, absolutely go to Tantra. It'll help you out because you'll be doing the energy work to help you feel that and feel that connectedness and feel that longevity and realize that sex is not just penetration or blowjobs or, wristies. It's like there's so much more going on. With the sexual experience that is not that, it's not just like
examples?
Flip them over position 1, flip them over position 2, and then 3, you're done. Like it's not like that at all.
Oh, thank fuck, because I'm so over that shit.
Yeah, that's the Kama Sutra. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Gotcha. So can you just again highlight the difference between the Kama Sutra and Tantra for our listeners? Just give them one more go over that, that difference so that we are educating people so that people do not get fucking confused.
Kama Sutra at a fundamental level is about sex positions. It's a lot more than that, but like, as a core concept, you go like, this is a methodology of sex positions to enhance yourself and find discovery in that space. Tantra is about energetic work and sharing energy with people.
Okay, so my next question is, do both of those, the Kama Sutra and Tantra, do they both have the same lineage culturally, or were they born from different cultures?
I honestly don't have the history of Tantra and yoga at hand. That's not something that I'm well versed in. My current assumption that I'm working under is that they are both from Asian heritage.
Cool. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So they're both what we now know as India. That's kind of as far as I understand. They both come out of that world, and Kama Sutra, yoga, Tantra are all actually really closely interlinked.
Okay,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
They're all branches of a similar tree, if that makes sense.
So this is a personal question, and feel free to not answer it if you don't want to. But have you noticed? I'm assuming then you practice Tantra. I'm assuming because you know.
The glasses come down, the eyebrows go up.
No.
Making that assumption, Callan, you can say fuck off.
I'm
ladies, actually interested in the concepts of it.
I actually don't, and I've never done or participated in a Tantra workshop, so that I'd actually have no connection to that form or that industry. But I know people who are, and I've had a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions with people who are. Right. So yeah, I've done a lot of that, but I haven't actually practiced Tantra. It just hasn't come up. There hasn't been a workshop where I've been like, that's the one that I want to get to. Because it can be confronting. It can be really challenging. Like I haven't been in a position to take advantage of a kind of more public workshop.
So do you say that you would have to go to a workshop before you practice the whatever it is? I don't even know the right word.
No, but I do think it's useful to have someone there who can translate for you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like I'm hesitant to say teacher, but it's someone who can
guide.
Yeah, a guide is a really good one. But yeah, someone who's done the work, understands the language, understands the form, and they can translate the language and the process for you. And so then you can feel confident in stepping through that kind of landscape. A guide is a great example of that. If you're going hiking in the wilderness, you don't just walk off. You want to have
idea.
You want to have someone to guide you, or you want a compass to help you find your way.
Yeah, correct.
Or Google Maps. Think of it as your Google Maps assistant.
I've not had good experiences with Google Maps. Usually gets sent in the other direction. Thank you, Blossom. I do hope so.
I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list of learnings to do, because I have close friends who do it and talk about it, and so I do want to step into that space.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
The fact that it sounds like your circles, Callan, of friends, they're quite open. You're able to discuss things without prejudice, without judgment, and with the lens of curiosity. I think that's so juicy and such a gift that you've got, man.
It's brilliant.
Well, it's like I've just spent so much of my life being wrong.
Me too. We're all on the same page there, Callan.
Surely everyone else can link into this concept. It's like, I have been wrong way more than I've been right.
Yeah. But I think narcissists would say the opposite.
Yeah, correct.
Narcissists would say, no, I live in the realm of right. Everybody else is motherfucking wrong. Unless you're a narcissist. For those who are listening, if you are thinking, no, I've been right more than you're wrong, I'm going to diagnose you as a narcissist. And if that means you switch off from the podcast, whatever.
I'm a doctor.
I guess we're just honest about where we're at and see things for how they actually are.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But that's why I think I've ended up this way. It's like I kept being wrong, and I was like, I don't feel like I'm getting it. I don't feel like I'm getting it. And so then I ended up in positions of learning, essentially, of positions of learning.
I can really relate to that, Callan.
I'm like, I am getting this wrong. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way around this.
Absolutely.
So from that thought then, Callan, what was your first step? From the first time you went, I'm getting this wrong too much, where did you go from there?
I think that I was fortunate in that I was already having the conversations and already being introduced to new topics when I was getting it wrong. So I think it was an acknowledgement for me that I was getting it wrong, and people were kind of introducing things to me to be like, hey, this is another way of thinking about the world, or this is another way of looking at that problem, or this is another way that you could potentially, look at it. I've spent a lot of time trying to walk away from shoulds. That's a big one. So there's no shoulds about it. You don't.
Yeah, I don't use that word anymore. I've actually stricken it from my vocabulary.
Yeah, right. And we can talk about that as well. But yeah, I think I was already questioning what I was up to. And then there were people who were around me, and I was fortunate and lucky in that sense to have people who could jump in and kind of be guides for me on that journey. So people who've done the readings before me, people who I'm friends with who are much older than I am, and that's a really useful resource because they've done it and they
had more life experience.
Things. Yeah, they've had more life experience, or they've read more books, or they've had the opportunity to go to therapy, or whatever it is.
And they're also open to sharing their knowledge and helping you along your spiritual path.
But I think it's important, no matter what someone's age is, that everyone's receptive to receiving the lessons because everyone's got different life experiences. Like everybody comes from different experiences. So some people may have lived a very open, inquisitive life, and some people may have lived a very sheltered, very cotton wool to life, and it doesn't matter what age each person is at, people have something to offer, I think.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I was thinking about someone specifically in my life who was a guy.
Yeah, yes. I can relate to it as well, because I have a number of friends that are quite a bit older than myself, and then I have a couple of really close friends that are quite a lot younger than myself, so I'm kind of in the middle. And I guess it's about the person and the connection and having that common ground. And like you were saying, Callan, I agree. I think it's very important and quite fortuitous to be surrounded by the right people that help you progress as a person.
Very much.
Definitely.
So let's unpack, and I've said unpack a lot this episode. So if you want to turn it into a drinking game, this episode, feel free. I'm sorry if it's annoying, but it's the first thing that's coming to my head. Okay, so
I like it.
Let's
unravel.
There we go.
We need a thesaurus.
The should concept. So why is the word should so confining, controlling, and fucking restricting? What does it do, Callan?
Why does the word should have baggage? So, I mean, that's our fault, though. Should has connotations of judgment. It has connotations of expectation. And these two key things aren't helpful, basically. If I go, you should be getting up early and going for a run, right? And you go, well, like at its base level, you're like, well, yeah, I should be doing that. That would be really good for my health. It'd probably be good for my brain, all these kinds of things. But it comes with judgment. So that person is looking at you and saying, oh, you're not doing that. You should be. You should be doing that because that's what I think that you should be doing. Instead of the language of, have you thought about, or the language you could be, which is more inviting language. So instead of being judgment language or projection language, where you're projecting on that person what you think that they need or think that they want, instead being like, hey, this is an opportunity, or this is something that is possible. So that is a difference of the should comes with judgment and actions that you think someone should be taking, and opportunities on the other hand, which you can invite people to do.
I like
what an
that
excellent breakdown of a word that gets used way too often.
Yeah.
I made a very
all the time. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
This is all the time.
At least you're aware of it.
This is it. And I guess what I'm trying to get at with that is like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right. There's no like, oh, I woke up and I fucking nailed it. That's not real. It's not real. That doesn't happen. It's that going conscious choice. It's like, oh, I said should again in that conversation. And then when you're replaying it in bed because you've got anxiety or whatever, you're kind of going, actually, I don't need to use that language. I'm going to, and in the future, I'm going to try not to. And then every time you say it, you can just say, oh, I should. Oh, and then you go, what? I could.
Or would.
Instead of eating packet noodles every day, I could do something else instead of you should be eating something else.
There's also another word that I'd like us to talk about. So the other word that I think I try very hard to not use, but I know I use it in one context a lot, is never.
Never.
Yeah, never. Never's
a long time.
Pardon?
Never's a long time.
Yeah, it is. I feel strongly, though, in one of the circumstances in my life, I will never, and I mean never. So, like, it's like saying hate, I feel.
Interesting.
Use it when you actually fucking mean it, not throwing it around, because I think those two words, hate and never, are so strong in their actual meaning and roots of the word. But people tend to use it too flippantly. Like me with swearing. I fucking love swearing. It makes me feel good. It resonates really well in my body. For me, I know some people don't like swearing, and that's fine. But for me, it does something to my inner workings that sparks off some little fireworks of feel-good stuff. And I very, very, very rarely swear at somebody in an aggressive way. That is very, very rare. I usually use swearing to colour my definitions or to punctuate the feeling of something in a positive way, not in an abusive, negative way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a fuck yeah instead of a fuck no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about
never.
Why? Yeah. Why do you use it all the time? What makes you feel uncomfortable about using it? Yeah.
Well, I think I'm very specific with my use of never, and it is only reserved for a certain amount of. A certain group of people in my life. That I will never see again. I will never see them again. And one person in particular, and that is for my well-being, my mental health, and my and self-preservation a bit as well.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like boundary setting to me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
But what is it that you don't like? What is it that you don't like about never, and why? Because
usually when I have, for example, said, I'm never seeing that person again, it doesn't matter how I'm related to them or whatever it is, people seem to be affronted by that, and they respond with, well, you can't say that because of X, Y, Z. Example, if it's a relation, you can't say that, you're related to them. Your default is that you love them automatically, so therefore you have to forgive any bullshit that has been thrown your way. And so that's where my issue with never comes in. Like never, I think you're right, is me setting boundaries and going, actually, no, I've worked out that this person is actually not right for me in my world, in my sphere, because of actions and repeated behaviours and whatever it is. I feel hurt when the response back is, but you should.
There's that red flag.
There it is.
Because they are this person. But you should because you're blood connected to them. But you should because everybody's supposed to default have a forever relationship with their mother in particular, you know? I feel like when I get the should back to a boundary of a never, that really fucking hurts. So any of the people listening that have done that to me, you can eat a dick, and now you know exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So we're clear.
Boom.
Specifically a spotted dick from London.
And mouldy and sticky too.
I mean, okay. So what I'm hearing from that is,
Sorry, Callan,
essentially
I'm trying to contain myself with that visual.
you're
quite there.
You're using never as basically a shorthand for saying it's like I'm not interested in seeing that
engaging in this.
Yes.
Like I was like I'm not interested in having a ongoing relationship in any way with that person.
Yeah.
Using relationship in its broader term. Which I think is entirely appropriate. If you're setting that boundary for yourself, and you're using never as a shorthand for this is the limits of my, my energy, then that's great. I think it gets dangerous when people who say, I'd never do X experience.
Yes.
So it's like, I would never do that. I would never do that.
Yeah.
And you're going like, hang on a second, like, yeah, exactly. Then it's limiting language. If you're using never as a boundary setting, I think it's really great. But if you're using never as preventative in terms of preventing experience, then
then that's when
it's very
word,
finite. Yeah, and I'm a bit like you.
Yeah, it's
very seldom used.
Yeah.
I'll say I very, 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 very strongly dislike that person, or I loathe them.
Yeah.
But I will not say I hate, and I will not say never. Thanks, Blossom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like there's And with the people that I would never have anything to do with again, it's interesting. I don't hate them, even though I'm justly in my rights to do that. But I've forgiven them and let them go because they've done what they've done through their life experience, through their worldview,
They're
through
patterning,
their lens.
their life chaps that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Life chaps?
Traps. It was meant to be. Sorry, I was hoping
right.
didn't notice the R didn't make it in there. It almost turned into life craps. Sorry, I clearly haven't had enough caffeination. Oh, she's beautiful. Carla always looks after me with the coffee, but clearly one has not quite got the vocabulary flowing yet. Sorry. Yes, life traps.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. I was like, is this something I've never heard of before? Like, what is it?
No, it's just Lainey's crazy brain power.
I think you're
Brilliant.
so right in what you said before, Callan, about no one's perfect, and I fully accept that nobody is perfect. I know that I'm not perfect. I have conducted myself in ways that I wish I could take back in the past in many different situations. But
and we all.
Yeah. If you take the lessons, try and catch yourself, like you've been saying, to change that behavior or pattern or default. With that acceptance that nobody is perfect, I am able to forgive. However, I'm not one to forget, nor does that mean I will let my boundaries down and let destructive people back in.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you know that people have a certain set of behaviors, or that you and that person have a certain history, and so what happens is you step back into that relationship with that person, and then it just sets up those same problems.
Yes.
And so you're going, well, I'm just in an infinite loop. You know, bloody Tom Cruise in Live, Die, Repeat, or whatever it's called. You know, you just like keep going back and just doing the same thing again and again and again. And if there's no growth happening there, if that person's bringing you down, then yeah, absolutely. Like there's no reason for you to continue going back to that, even if it is a socially, accepted relationship or a socially enforced relationship.
Treat us.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting is, especially with family, family has seen you grow up, and they have a certain box that they put you in because they've seen you grow up, seen you go through these experiences. So they have a filter on you of what they think you are. That necessarily might not be true. My experience is I've had that in my life where relatives have seen me in a certain box and I am fucking not that box, and because of certain circumstances and family dynamics changing in extended family and whatnot, me choosing to do me and let them just think what they would like to think about me, and not letting them in my life has been the best decision I've ever made. The change, because I was always very, 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 very family orientated. I come from Italian background. I was the type of niece, nephew and granddaughter that would go every weekend to see aunties, uncles, nonna, all that kind of stuff. I'd do the rounds, do the right thing, go visit, all that kind of stuff. And I got to a point, especially with my nonna, where I couldn't do it anymore. And then another situation happened in my family which made me reassess everybody in that family unit, and made me realise that I wasn't being seen for who I was at all. And because some people were taken away out of that family unit and they had made that initial decision, it allowed me to step back into myself, work out who I am, and then go, actually, all of them for, and I'm being very vague here because I don't know. I just am. I could be really.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just am being
That's
very
what feels right at the moment.
But it first started off with me asserting myself with my nonna and actually saying to her, if you're going to continue to behave like this with me, I'm actually not going to come over anymore.
Well done, girlfriend. Well done.
Me. And then probably a year later is when other shit went down, and unfortunately that was a whole collapse of the family. But it was interesting when I started to make that decision with Nonna because, look, she did a very good job at a very young age with me at telling me how worthless I was.
Mm.
And when you hear that enough, you fucking believe it.
It becomes the patterning.
And just because she was my nonna and she had many wonderful qualities, don't get me wrong, she had many wonderful qualities, but for whatever reason, I was not a valuable piece of the puzzle in that family for her. And she fucking let me know it.
So damaging.
And obviously, you only realise that until someone externally points it out to you. I remember one of my exes was like, Carla, you do realise that your family sees you like this. I was like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? He goes, listen to the way that they interact with you. You're so used to that dynamic because that's the dynamic you've grown up on. And then I started to listen to the obvious things that I hadn't been noticing my whole life, which is actually pretty devastating when you've got a fucking nonna, which is grandma in Italian, if you don't know, that is constantly telling you that you're worth nothing in directly or in indirect ways. It's a bit of a shock. And then having to go, okay, well, this person's actually destructive in my life. What do I need to do to set those boundaries? And one Easter, so there was a scenario that happened where I was defending my dad to my nonna because there was a fallout between one of the uncles and my dad. And I won't go into that because that's not my story to tell. But I was defending my dad because my nonna is a massive master manipulator and she plays everybody off each other in the family because there's 5 kids. She's got 5 kids, so my mum and all her siblings. And she's very good at playing people off each other. She even used to do it to us cousins too.
Wow.
And that's just what she did. And this one day we went to her place earlier than what the family gathering was supposed to be for Easter. I think this was Easter 2015. Yep, it was Easter 2015. And she started guilting, because I'm Italian, guilt is a flavouring in every fucking conversation. It is there all the time.
The seasoning of every dish.
Yes, exactly. And she started guilting my dad, telling Dad that he has to be the peak. Because my dad is the type that wants to please everybody. He wants to do the right thing by everybody. He's very family orientated, first generation Australian. His parents are from Italy. Again, different cultural step down the ladder. Anyway, long story short, I responded with, Nonna, you actually can't ask Dad to do that.
Well done.
You can't do that. And I remember it as if she was levitating off the motherfucking table, getting in my face, screaming at me and pointing in my face.
Wow.
And letting me have it. Like, how dare I disrespect her by standing up for my dad when she was guilting him into doing something that I felt was really inappropriate, that she should have even been talking about it. Had nothing to do with her. And from that, I let her scream and shout. And yes, there'll be family members listening to this and they'll be like, oh, Norna's. Look, this is my experience with Nonna, so I'm speaking from my truth and my experience. And if it's hard for you to hear, maybe skip ahead. I let her go. And my response was, Nonna, you actually can't talk to me like this anymore. You can't scream at me anymore. This is not okay. And you know what? If you're going to keep being like this with me, this is the last time I'm coming over. And I left in a taxi because I'd gone with Dad. This was before Uber was around. Uber hadn't started yet in Adelaide. So I walked to the end of the street, called a fucking taxi and left. And I remember Dad calling me because he was still there trying to calm Norna down and trying to dissipate the situation. And Dad's like, where are you? I'm like, I fucking called a taxi. I'm going home. Fuck this shit. I just had enough. Yeah, look, the only other time I had been to her front doorstep was in 2017 when my brother and I were trying to sort something out. But I would not step in her house. So I kept my word to myself that I would never be in that house with her again.
Very important.
And look, yes, Italians are loud. We are passionate, but there is a difference between being loud and passionate and aggressive with the way that you scream at somebody. It's different. It's fucking different, and you know the difference. So setting I don't hate Norna. I don't hate her. She's just not in my life because she's not a healthy interaction for me. So she's not in my life. And I think it's really important for people to work out where they sit with people in regards to, are they the destructive person in someone's life, or do they have other destructive people in their life, and are they there because we feel like we have to have them because they're relatives or because you've grown up with them, or whatever the reason is. I think it's so important for people to actually assess relationships, especially as we get older. We don't know how long we're going to be in this life for, and I'm not interested in being in this life with people that are just going to make me feel like I'm worth nothing. Like I just have no point.
Just with what you said there, Carla, I've had quite, as you know, between our conversations we've had off air, it has been a huge year with reassessment for many of us. I'm guessing it's probably the same for you, Callan, and learning how to teach people how to treat us, and also choosing not to put ourselves in a position where we're continually experiencing somebody who isn't moving or behaving with our best interests in mind, not moving from a particularly nice space. I mean, we all might have our arguments or our misunderstandings, but it's about actually honouring ourselves, and that's what I took from what you have just shared with us. And thank you for sharing that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's what are your thoughts on that, Callan?
I think it's a really interesting story about what the worst case scenario for when you start challenging someone's patterns or challenging your own patterns. And when you're going like, hey, this is the pattern that I see, and I don't want to continue doing this pattern. This pattern isn't healthy for us. And then you provide the other person the opportunity to change or update their behaviors, and then if nothing changes, then I think it's absolutely right.
That's the answer. The actions are speaking.
To step away from that. You're going like, well, you can talk with someone and they can be like, I want to change. You can go, yeah, absolutely. And then, but then if nothing does happen, then you need to look after yourself. And I think that is completely true.
And if you, like in my mind, it was very much, I'm actually condoning Norna's behaviour by continually seeing her, even though every time I was there, there'd be fucking something about me that she needed to tell me was wrong with me or whatever it was. I think it's telling that person, I'm coming back because I'm okay with your emotional destruction.
It's like, do you have the energy to keep showing up and keep interrupting that pattern? And that becomes the question.
Continue.
Exactly. And I have quite a few people who have been or have previously been in my life or so on and so forth who have gone through that dynamic. Of just saying like, I don't like this pattern, I would like it to change, and then going from there. And I've had to do it with my own family.
Me too.
As someone who sought to be a professional artist and then was working through all of those challenges. I had to have some very difficult conversations with my family about what you're talking about how you're viewed, how they're acting, things like that. Not as intense as the emotional
adulting, hey? It's pretty overrated.
Well, about acknowledging it's like I am now a fully grown person, and the previous patterns that we've been living with up till now are no longer what's...
I'm not my parents, I'm not my patterns.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's like, I'm the youngest of 3. And so, that comes with its own whole set of things, like how you get treated as the youngest of a set of...
Oh, wow. You were youngest?
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's that's a very interesting beast in itself. The youngest, the middle child, the eldest child. Very
about how you get treated with responsibility and things like that. So
very interesting.
So just having conversations with people and having really honest conversations, and then assessing whether you have the energy to keep interrupting when a pattern is not going the way you want. So if you're ending up in fights with people all the time, interrupting it by going and getting in a taxi. Perfect. You've removed yourself from the situation.
Yeah, I actually did a very similar thing myself.
Things like that. And so it's like, are you willing to keep showing up and keep doing that, so that every time that they overstep your boundary, you're like, okay, you've overstepped my boundary, I'm going to leave.
You have actually taught them how to treat you.
You've overstepped my boundary, and so now, like, I'm just going to stop the conversation. I'm going to go to another room, or something. There are a multitude of ways that you can play that out if you still have the energy. Once you realize that,
me leaving was a very different style for me. Usually I would have stayed and fought the fight, but that was my point of, no, actually I can see that this 80 something year old woman, this is who she is. This is how she conducts herself. Who am I to tell her to change at this stage? I'm not anybody to do that. So I kept myself as calm as I could. I was actually very calm, responded with, you can't speak to me like that, and this is the last time I'll be here, because you're
well
not
done.
I would say that is a beautiful example of a shift from a masculine mindset into a feminine mindset.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, there you go.
Right? It's like the masculine mindset is, I'm going to fight you till the end of time. I'm going to be here. I'm going to fight the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And the feminine mindset is going like, hey, like, I'm doing me. I can't change you. I'm going to allow.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you've articulated that, because that's how I've taken the feminine mindset with that scenario, with those relatives. They can do them, but I'll be over here doing me, and there won't be anything to do with it.
And it's always very tricky with the family dynamics too. I won't go into it, but I've had quite a time with my own family over the past few years, because I had that shift of consciousness and thought, I'm not actually going to choose to continue to engage in this bullshit, guys. Sorry if you are listening, but I actually am going to be the adult in the room and say, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. On that lovely note, do you want to leave our listeners with any parting advice? And I feel like we need to do a take 3.
Oh, absolutely. Callan, I think you're going to be a regular. Dr. Callan. Instead of Dr.
Let
Phil.
me get a doctorate first, I've got some great people that I'd love to share with you. Hopefully they can get on here as well, because they have some incredible insights on some of the things we've been talking about today. And they are genuine experts. I'm a jack in this world.
Now.
Jack of all trades.
No.
Know a little bit about a lot. And I guess from here I'd like to say, it's like, remember, like, masculine and feminine both have strength. To recognize and understand that they are both just energy sources, and they're not they're not bound to you by whatever gender you have decided at. Continue the journey, continue learning, be open to new learning from new people, and you will never stop.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Callan. That's
I think that's a bit of a summary.
Brilliant.
Thank you, darling. Until next time, we will speak soon. And gratitude and hugs and kisses your way 1,000 times over.
Big love. Beautiful.
Big love.
Ciao.
The Catch a Lorette, with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys.
Ooh, ah.
The Catch a Lorette. next time if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.